We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by PrizePicks Week 2. It's the big show. How's everyone doing? How we doing out there in the chat? There's a lot of stuff that we have to talk about today. This is a really interesting Week 2 slate. There's like one of these every single year where I feel like we get a ton of firepower at like the quarterback position, but there's just so many different directions we can go with stacks and ways to get in tournaments. So we're going to talk about all of that. Of course, hope everyone had a really strong Week 1. We're right back in the groove. This is one of these things that I just look forward to this show every single week. This morning, this whole routine of Sunday mornings, I absolutely love it. So hopefully you guys are in a good spot, and we can definitely start to gain a little bit of momentum here, right? So I think once we get to like Week 3, Week 4, we can start using some of the data a little bit more. But now it's still a little bit of a reveal for me. And Week 2 is always interesting because it's like overreaction week, right? In Week 1 that we're going to completely overreact to in Week 2. We will find out. We will find out. Familiar faces in the chat. I love all the "we are back" emojis, by the way. Those are just amazing. Ian Warner's in here. What's up, man? Casey Bones in here. He's got the Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, the Great Dane emojis. Are the Great Dane emojis not the best thing you've ever seen in the chat? What's up, guys? Family Man's in here. Brian, what's up, Brian? Joe Milk's in here. Frank the Tank is in here. Michael O'Brien, what's up, guys? Tony Garcia. Winter Bell is in here. What's up, my man? How we doing, Winter Bell? Lundar says he is massively hungover. Today is my DFS version of the Jordan flu game. Gonna get the millie. Dude, every now and then, you just need to come in with a different mindset, no matter how you get there. Maybe that's one of those paths. I don't know. I'm not drinking near as much these days as I used to. Maybe that's just me getting old. I'm not sure. We'll have a couple as we're watching the games today, though. That's for sure. Claytainment, what's up, man? How we doing? Min Holla, King Mana, Frederick Soul, Brian Osborne, Elite Phoenix, Tyler. Who else we got in here? Aaron's in here. What's up, Aaron? Brandon Baxter, the Strat guy. How we doing, guys? How we doing? Noel fans in here. What's up, Noel? How we doing, my Noel? You got to give us all the alpha. I need all the alpha from Noel today. And then Noel comes in here and drops a $99 super chat. Are you kidding me, man? Thank you so much. Noel is the absolute man. He's been with us since the very beginning. Obviously, I know him from way back when I was doing DFS coaching. And then it just so happened Noel just got a lot better at DFS than me and didn't need my coaching anymore. What a stud. Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. What's up, Justin? How's it going, man? Casey Henry in the chat says, loving the newsletter. Love it, man. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you came over from the newsletter. That's where a lot of my focus is during the week these days. Really trying to get that thing built up and bring you guys a little bit of something for everyone in there. There's some season-long stuff in there early in the week. We definitely mix in a lot of DFS and sports betting stuff along the way. Bring you as much news as possible. So the Sunday morning one is a little bit more news-focused. But yeah, the newsletter is a huge focus of mine. So hopefully you guys check it out. Absolutely free. Everything's free this year, guys. Everything that was behind a paywall for what feels like years, I'm just making it all free this year. So hopefully you guys will go check it out. Support the newsletter. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out. There's also a free DFS course that I built this off season. It's basically an ebook, the DFS Masterclass, what I'm calling it. So there's a link in the description for that if you want to check that out as well. Kind of just a nice refresher earlier in the year, just to try and get our feet set on what we want to do in tournaments, how we want to play the right way, and how we want to kind of build through our process versus just results, that sort of thing. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. Spend a lot of time on it, and it's free. So check it out. Jay Bell in here. Debo steals the day. Yeah, I had to put Debo on the thumbnail today. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. First one of your streams will love the videos. What's up, Glenn? Welcome into the live streams, man. These are the fun ones. The videos are great, kind of to get our feet set during the week, but this is where the money's made, my man. Welcome in. Ryan Osborne, been here since Twitch. There's a lot of, I can't even like count a couple people in the chat because there's like tens of people in the chat that have been here since the very beginning in the Twitch days. I appreciate you guys. Hey Bizzle, what's up, Hey Bizzle? Speaking of familiar faces. Michael's in here. What's up, man? All right, guys, let's do what we always like to do at the start of the show. We're going to start it off with a poll. Who will be the highest owned player today? Highest owned player on the Week 2 slate. Is it Christian McCaffrey, Joshua Kelly, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Luke Musgrave, Josh Allen, or other? In order to place your vote, you have to be a subscriber of the channel. Make sure you hit that exclamation point vote, space the number in the chat. It's the only way you can place your vote. Fingers crossed that the chat is working, that the polls are working. It is. We got one vote for Joshua Kelly. Let's go. Where are we at on this, guys? Where are we at on the highest owned player today? As we're talking through this, I jumped right past the news. I might just start jumping completely past the news since most of that stuff is going in the newsletter these days. But it looks like DeAndre Hopkins is expected to be active. He's got that ankle injury. Absolutely getting fed the ball last week by Tannehill. Just a weird fit, right? Hopkins with Tannehill. Without even getting too hand in the dirt, it's more like he's kind of like a contested catcher at this point. Not Tannehill's strong suit, fitting things into tight windows. Christian Watson looks like will be inactive with a hamstring injury on the other side of that against the Falcons. Aaron Jones expected to miss. We'll talk about A.J. Dillon here shortly. Greg Dulcich, injured reserve. Melvin Gordon will be on the active roster today. So despite the J.K. Dobbins injury last week, it looks like it's going to be a combination of Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Melvin Gordon. Just a rough backfield to attack from DFS perspective, I think. DJ Chark questionable against the Saints today. Who else we got here? Austin Eckler ruled out, as we know. You guys are all over it in the chat right now. A lot of Joshua Kelly votes for the highest owned player. 36 votes so far. 75% of you guys think that Joshua Kelly is going to be the highest owned player today on this week 2 slate. Very interesting. I think I agree with you guys. Christian Baker in the chat says he's fading Kelly. It is a tough matchup. Do we care about matchups of the running back position? Or do we care more about the role and volume? Those are questions we're going to have to answer today. Almost 300 people in the chat. Appreciate you guys jumping in here early on a Sunday morning. Only 50 votes. We're going to try and get that thing up. The more votes we get in the chat, the more we get to drive this conversation and figure out where we're at as a group. What else we got in here? Fading Kelly, probably bad. We got a couple people that are interested in fading Kelly. Is that like the cool thing to do this morning? Have you guys tried building lineups? That extra like 600 to 700 that you save versus some of the other cheaper running backs is meaningful today in lineup construction. Thinking Jamal Williams over Joshua Kelly. Interesting. Okay. We'll get to that. Christian McCaffrey, second in votes right now. Calvin Ridley. No one thinks Devontae Adams is going to be the highest owned player. I think he'll still be top 5, though, don't we think, in that game? It is an interesting one. We got the Game Hub over here at fantasylife.com, the official tools partner of the Joe Holka Show. There's a bunch of great stuff that we'll get to go through over here on their utilization report, but also just if you want to get your head straight on what games we have coming up, what the spreads, what the odds, all that stuff look like, what the matchups look like in general, all the tools over at fantasylife.com. 100% free. That's a theme this year. So make sure you guys check it out. There's a bunch of stuff over there that is updated faster than anything you'll really find for free on the internet, that's for sure. They have a bunch of different PFF tools, PFF data, all that good stuff. Jump over here into the utilization report. Go to wide receiver. Check out percentage of air yards, all that good stuff, catchable targets, routes run, targets per route run, all this good stuff, completely free. So I'm using this a ton in the mornings when I'm trying to make those last minute decisions. Very cool. All right, let's go back to the poll here. I think this was probably the easiest poll we've done all season. So let's close that out. Well, let's start with the quarterback position because this is a really interesting quarterback slate, in my opinion. Top quarterback play, price considered. This is a sub-only vote, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or other. Say Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow or other. Place your vote in the chat, exclamation point, vote, space, and number. Quarterback position. Had someone mention Jordan Love in the chat. Jordan Love not really on my radar, and part of the reason is I think there's so many high-end quarterbacks available on this slate. In order for one of those cheaper quarterbacks to really basically get you there, you need even more failures. Does that make sense? So more failures from the top end of quarterbacks. We got Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Herbert, Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. There's just a lot of guys at the top end that would need to fail for one of these really cheap guys to get you there. Obviously, roster construction matters. I don't know if it's tight enough to where I would feel like I needed to go all the way down to someone like Love at 5,500. I think the cheapest I'm looking at is probably like Daniel Jones, but we'll get there, guys. I do like the top end of quarterback today, though. I don't know how unique that take is, though. I think a lot of people want Josh Allen today. Another Brock Purdy day. Other Brock Purdy. What's up, Noel? Brian, Justin Herbert day. Interesting. Ian, never say sorry, my man. Just thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Peter Garvey. What's up, my man? Jared Goff. Interesting. Glenn's got Jared Goff on his radar today. I like that game. Mahomes at lower ownership seems like the best play. Yeah, Reeves and I talked a little bit about Mahomes. If that ownership holds, I think that he's definitely up there as one of those guys that I'm targeting for sure. The KC side of that game looks a little bit lighter than the Jacksonville side of that game from an ownership perspective. That's for sure. This is a really tight poll we have right now. So this is probably just a really good representation of what this week feels like right now. There's so many different directions you can go. It's one of the first things that I said when we hopped on today. And at the quarterback position and your stacks in particular, there does feel like a lot of stuff. There's not like a clear standout option in tournaments today. At least that's what I'm seeing so far. So let's start with Josh Allen now. Let's just let it go. Everything we saw last week, I hope, right? I guess I hope that we get a bounce back spot here. There's like a million different things that I could say here about Josh Allen and the Bills. Most of it, by the time we got to Sunday, you've probably heard it all, right? This defense, not very good. This offense will continue to keep the pedal down. They're obviously trying to prove that they deserve a lot more respect than we were giving them after last week. All the things, right? There's a million different reasons to like Josh Allen at 7,900 under 8K. It does feel like kind of the top option if we're going to spend all the way up, just from a ceiling floor perspective. You guys know I like Josh Allen. Love Stephon Diggs, all that stuff. I don't think we need to spend too much time on Josh Allen. I think we'll just need to figure out ways to get pretty unique, because that's the one that feels like it's going to get steamed up, for me at least, from an ownership perspective. Yeah. I think if we're talking through like the rest of the quarterback position, I think Josh Allen still is a tier above some of those other high-end guys that I mentioned. I like him better than Patrick Mahomes. I like him better than Joe Burrow, for the reasons we just mentioned. Joe Burrow is the one that I think is probably the most enticing to stack up, just because I think that the way ownership and ceiling is looking like, that might be one of the directions I consider going with my main team. We'll get there. I still like the Mahomes stuff. Kelsey back, obviously. There's a lot to like on the bringbacks on the other side. But if we're going to go down a little bit, I do really like Trevor Lawrence. And I think this could be a situation where now that we have Calvin Ridley, we can see a completely different Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, talk about what a difference Stephon Diggs made for a guy like Josh Allen. Do we see that kind of jump for Trevor Lawrence now that Calvin Ridley is back in the fold? I think it's really possible. Are we overreacting or underreacting to the Calvin Ridley stuff? I don't think this is the one we're overreacting to. I think that we talked about it all offseason leading up. It was probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks before DraftKings really caught up to the role and talent again of Calvin Ridley, and they started him at a pretty aggressive spot. So we might get a couple more weeks of him being cheaper than he should be, right? I think that there's an argument that Calvin Ridley's probably a top 3 play this week at the wide receiver position, but we'll get there. I think if you're going cheaper, it probably is going to be someone where we can get a lot on the ground. That's not going to be surprising for anyone that's watched the show over the years. Anthony Richardson, someone I'm looking at 6,300. I do like it quite a bit still in this spot. I think that he looked a lot better than expected last week, and we know he's going to run, right? Just the matchup in general against Houston is looking pretty good, and at 6,300, it does open up a decent amount. Saving your 1,500 or so off of Josh Allen does a lot for your roster today. I think that if you if you wanted to go down even a little bit further in a pinch, like I said, I think Daniel Jones is the cheapest I'd be willing to go today at quarterback. But it is a really nice spot, mostly because he gets to play against my Cardinals today, right? So I'm interested in the Daniel Jones stuff. It's just harder to figure out what direction to go with stacking up that game. But I like some of the skinny stack stuff. We'll talk a little bit about Darren Waller shortly. But I do like Daniel Jones. That game is kind of interesting. Just looking at like some of the pace stuff overall, it's still, I think that's probably the biggest difference between these two plays for me. I think that Indy and Houston game has a little bit more pace to it. So I probably would break that tie for Anthony Richardson if I could over Daniel Jones. But still really like the idea of getting up to Josh Allen or Mahomes. And I think that there are some builds that look pretty good with Trevor Lawrence as well. The game that I'm struggling a little bit with from a stacking perspective is this Seattle and Detroit Lions game. We went through it with Reeves this week. I still think that you could make an argument that that's probably one of the most enticing stacks to go after. I just haven't made up my mind which side of it I want to really prioritize. But I am looking at that game pretty heavily. A couple of the games that I'm trying to just have pieces of, but not get too crazy with. I think this Green Bay and Atlanta game has a chance to get a little bit gross. We kind of saw Aaron Jones driving the bus for Green Bay. Sure, Love looked good. He had a lot of time back there to do whatever he wants, but it still seemed like Aaron Jones was the one that was making that offense go. And now with him out, do we see them step back a little bit? We've seen Atlanta play some kind of gross games over the years. So I think that one's at least interesting to consider. A fade on San Francisco and the Rams. I think, again, there's pieces of San Francisco that I think are really interesting. There's a couple cheaper pieces on the Rams side that I would consider. I don't think that that's a game I'll be stacking up. I think that the pace is a little bit concerning there. Same thing with Broncos Commanders. Geno stack solo owned. That does feel like the side that's going to be lower. Yeah. Maybe we'll build one of those today. Is Fields playable? Fields is always playable, I think, in tournaments just because the upside he's going to allow you to get to, but very expensive, right? But I think he's playable, yeah. Love T-Law and Goff today. I'm with you, Derek. I like both those guys. Ridley is elite. Sal Vetri Hillbillies in the house. What a name. What a name. Shout out to Sal. Play Lockett, thank me later. Any interest in Herbert stacks? Yes, I do like the Herbert stuff. That's one of the ones that stacks up pretty easily, right? I like the Herbert doubles in particular. And you can feel pretty good about bringing that back with like the big dog or something like that. I like that. Maybe we'll build one of those too. We'll see. We got time. That's the good news. Let's close this out. We'll talk a little bit more about quarterback when we get into some stacks, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Top running back play in week 2. Price considered. Sub-only vote. A.J. Dillon, Joshua Kelly, David Montgomery, Rashad White, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs. Where are we at the running back position this week, friends? Just realized I didn't put an other on this, so you don't even get another. Let's just narrow it down to these guys today. Noel Fan, another super chat. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for that. Renfro is a sneaky value bring back for Allen stacks. Let me take a look at Renfro. We have the technology to look at Renfro here. That's kind of interesting. I haven't heard one person talk about him yet. Let's just take a look here. So, in terms of last week, Renfro, 31% of the routes. Did not run a ton of routes last week. Did not have a target, I believe. Sneaky for sure. But with Jacoby Myers out, a lot of people on Devontae Adams. I've heard worse ideas, Noel. I've heard worse ideas. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Like in that range at wide receiver, the Renfro stuff. I hadn't considered it, if I'm being completely honest, but I'm going to take a deeper look here. 3,900. Probably a really nice pivot in that game, though. If you're trying to get your ownership down with Josh Allen stuff, Gabe Davis obviously is an option, but he still feels like the one that everyone thinks is going to be 5% that ends up being 10%. It's kind of interesting. I could see it working out. 20 minutes late, but finally made it. Let's have a good day. What's up, Mitchell? You're all good, man. You're not late. Just play CMC. Don't get cute. Oh, yeah. Let's see where this poll. CMC leading the way. Top running back play of the week so far. Interesting. Where are we at running back, guys? 31 votes for having 400 people in here. We got to wait this out a little bit. (2v2) Rashad White and DJ Moore, James Cook and Nuka. The Rashad White stuff seems, I think that might be a situation where people might have overreacted a little bit. You know, everyone just seems convinced that Rashad White is absolute dust. I kind of like the Tampa Bay guys today, just in general. CMC emojis in the chat. Yeah, we're going to have to change the look of those. We still got the Carolina Panthers CMC emoji in there. Saquon, okay. Whoever is playing Arizona, probably the team I vote most likely to survive this week. Come on, man. I think the Cardinals are going to be sneaky. I don't know. They're going to be a tougher out than people think. That's my stance on it. All right, CMC leading the way here. Let's talk about some of the running backs. So we can start with him. I mean, realistically, what we saw last week was everything we wanted to see for the role, right? 85% of the snaps, ran a ton of routes, 25 touches. So this Rams team just doesn't have a whole lot back there outside of Donald at this point. So 8,900 for Christian McCaffrey. Always a threat for the double bonus. Massive touchdown threat. Yeah, I'm in on CMC. I agree with you guys. I think he's one of the best plays on the entire board. Like, even just like looking at CMC versus some of the top end wide receivers, I think it still looks pretty strong. Pretty strong. I think I'd probably put him ahead of Devontae. Probably put him ahead of Diggs. I think it's like Jamar Chase versus CMC from a ceiling perspective today, but it's really close. It's really close. Ryan Hodge in the chat. What's up, my man? Make sure you guys go check out the video Hodge and I did earlier this week. Imagine fading AJ Dillon's quads today. Ryan Hodge, all over the AJ Dillon quads, over the Joshua Kelly quads. Can we confirm that? This is big. Yeah. Even if we're not talking about matchup in particular, I think I am a little bit more in favor of the AJ Dillon stuff today. I just think that price is meaningful. The difference in price, yeah. Derrick Henry in the chat for Derek Pearson. Interesting. I like the Henry stuff in stacks. Cards defense last week is a great DFS play. I think another good option this week. I agree. We talked about the Cardinals defense last week. I don't know what they ended up with. I forget. But anytime you can play the opposite end of one of the really chalky defenses that's also very cheap, I'm in on that. Kelly seems like the easiest fade. This is starting to make me nervous how many people want to fade Kelly. Where have we gotten to in DFS where a running back gets hurt in a great offense and no one wants to play the backup because they think it's a trap? What happened to us here? I still think that this is a guy that we were even just like looking at in the offseason of having like some standalone value in this offense even when Eckler was there, right? It seems like they've wanted to have both backs involved from the start. So I think that, yeah, I mean, you get a guy that walks into the bell cow role. I can't remember what, Hodge, you probably remember this. There was one year, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, where there was one defense that no one wanted to go after because they were such a stout run defense. So no one wanted to play running backs against them. We had a situation like this. It was a bell cow running back goes down. We had a backup in an amazing spot. Ended up being like 5% owned just because of the matchup. And ended up getting in the box twice. Had a huge like 80-yard run. I can still picture it on my TV. And I just remember sitting there kicking myself because what do we always talk about? The only thing that matters at running back is volume. So if we're looking at that price, are we overrating this matchup? Maybe. It's possible. And it's a game that we like in general, right? So I think we undervalue game environment and we overvalue specific positional matchups. So I'm warming up a little bit to the Kelly stuff, especially if he ends up being lower than we originally thought and people are starting to overthink it. I think that's my take. John Spenceley, that's why I like Pollard. Pollard stuff's kind of interesting in tournaments. It's not projecting very well for me, but I wouldn't hate you for that. Dylan his cheeks. Why is that so funny? Why is that word so funny? Herbert to Big Mike, fade Kelly, hop run back. Okay. Please see Jamal Williams from last week. That sounds like recency bias if I've ever heard it, my man. The amount of high value touches Kelly should get should trump everything, right? Yeah, I don't know. You guys are talking me in the other direction. Most of the time, we're pretty aligned on some of this stuff, chat, but I think you're overreacting here. I think you're overreacting. He's 5K. While we're at Pollard, we can talk about that. He's definitely not 5K. If we're going to just stay on the tough matchups, bad game environment situation, I mean, a guy that got all of the goal line work last week, scores twice. Like, this is literally the role we've wanted to see for Pollard for years, and it's like no one even cares. This is like the position where, like, especially early in the year, we don't even know what these defenses are yet. You can, look at the personnel, look at what they did in week 1, cool, but this is like a really good example of why we shouldn't be overreacting, in my opinion. There's one thing that I want to show you guys here. Why can I never find it? There it is. Some of the tools over here. So red zone rushing. If we can get this to load. Come on. Tony Pollard. 7 attempts inside the 20. Insane. Absolutely insane. 100% of the touches inside the 5. So touchdowns matter, especially for an offense like this that's just going kind of overlooked. I'm tempted by the CeeDee Lamb stuff too. Call me a crazy person. We'll get there. Connor and the Cardinals D. See, that is one of the differences for me. Volume definitely matters, but we also want to look at touchdowns, teams that are going to score touchdowns, that sort of thing. So I'm much more likely to look past a bad matchup for a game environment and a team total that we like the Chargers, versus a team like Arizona that's just not going to score as many points. Can we play a pass-catching running back in the flex? Of course. I'm always team that you can do whatever you want in the flex. I'm not a big tight end in the flex person unless things are really tight. I don't think that's one of these weeks. But yeah, these pass-catching running backs I think are totally fine in the flex. It always depends on what types of tournaments you're playing. I'm playing a lot of smaller field tournaments. So anything like 200 people and below is what I consider smaller field tournaments. So that tends to lead me to a little bit more correlation in game stacks. It tends to lead me to a lot more of these running backs that can catch passes because it just lowers your floor or raises your floor. At times you can lower your ceiling by playing 2 running backs in the same game, but if they're 2 guys that catch balls, I don't have a problem with it. You're probably lowering your ceiling by playing running back in the flex over a wide receiver, but in these smaller tournaments, I think it's fine. Frost, what's up, Frost? 28 months. He's been a member for 28 months. What's up, Frost? How's it going, man? Glad to see you back in here. Hope things are going really well. Zach Moss, ew. Is Justice Hill in play for me? I think I built one Justice Hill team with the guests this week on the show. I'm just nervous that that's like a 3-headed backfield now. And it's like, you don't want any of them, right? So that'll probably be the only team I have him in. I originally thought he was going to be pretty chalky, but now that they have elevated Melvin Gordon, woof. Just a little bit different now. All right, let's move on. There's definitely some more running backs we can talk about. We'll mix in some stuff on Montgomery, Rashad Waite, those type of guys. But I think it's really Kelly, Dillon, at the top for me. Both of them probably behind McCaffrey, of course, from a raw points perspective. But I still think that if we're paying up, McCaffrey's right there with Adams, with Chase, with Diggs. Let's complete this one. This is always a fun poll, right? Speaking of the high-end wide receivers, who's our top elite wide receiver play today? We got no Jefferson. We got no Tyreek Hill on the slate. So the prices are actually kind of jammed up here at the top, right? Stephon Diggs is 8K, Jamar Chase 7,900, Amon-Ra 7,800, CeeDee Lamb 7,700, Devontae Adams 7,600. Where are we at the high end of wide receiver today? And I took out Calvin Ridley from this for a reason. We'll get to him in a second. He's 7,200. But the top end of the pricing tiers for wide receiver, where are we at? What do you guys prefer? This is a sub-only vote. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're here lurking for the first time. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you check out the first link in the description, bring you right to my free newsletter, The Touchdown Press. That's where a lot of the analysis, the picks, the season-long stuff. We got waiver wire stuff coming out. That's where that's coming out throughout the beginning of the week. Spending a lot of time on that these days. Hopefully you guys check it out. If you're watching on your TV right now, number one, let me know in the chat because I'm always interested in the people that watch these Sunday morning shows on their TV. We can check the actual scanning barcode for the touchdown press. I'm trying something out. I think it's fun. So make sure you guys check that out. There's a free ebook in the description as well if you're looking to get your feet set on daily fantasy for this year. Maybe you just haven't had the success you'd want to. Everything that I've learned over the last, 6+ years playing DFS is in that, and it's a completely free resource called the DFS Masterclass. So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the description as well. Would love to see you guys there. If you found us from the newsletter and you somehow made your way to the live stream, shout out to you in the chat. Definitely let me know. We got multiple people watching on their TV. Min Holla, Justin's watching on his TV. Sloppy Steaks. What a nickname. If you're sitting on your couch right now, I want you to hold up your phone and see if the QR code works. Can you reach it? Like, is this worthless that I have this at the bottom here right now? I just want to see if it works. For someone literally sitting on their couch watching this on their TV, does the QR code work? Too many watching, not enough likes. It's more than enough just to be here, guys. I say it every week. I just appreciate you guys being here, hanging out. The link works from the TV. Let's go. We got Ben Gresmer in the chat. What's up, my man? How many pops this morning, Grezzy? Feel like I haven't seen you in weeks, man. Ben goes to a bachelor party and just falls off the absolute map for 2 full weeks. Haven't seen the guy. He's probably been in a dark room somewhere. Frost is always good for the Diggs emojis in the chat. I can appreciate that. QR code works. Let's go. One going down at noon, still hung. Yeah. Shocking. Ben got after it. Amon-Ra is leading this poll. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't see that one coming. Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. 1 vote for Devontae Adams? What is going on here? Are we just completely overthinking things right now? I'm staring at ownership right now. Devontae Adams is supposed to be the highest owned of this entire group, and no one in this chat wants to play him? Is this real life? Is this where we're at with DFS right now? Like, everyone just, like, has no interest in playing any chalk whatsoever? What is going on? Holka is the Diggs whisperer. I will have some digs today. That I can guarantee you. Click both subbed and liked. Nick, my man. Appreciate you, man. Welcome in. We haven't even shouted out some of the new subscribers. I absolutely need to do that. Derek C, what's up, man? Grandkids in the chat. What's up? RZ, new subscriber. What's up, man? Zach, Goob, World Walker, Donald, Crispy K, BetBet24, Ben A, Catcher AD, John DeVette. Bunch of new subscribers today, guys. Appreciate you. Welcome in. Everyone's on Amon-Ra today. This is interesting. I kind of thought Amon-Ra might be the one that kind of got squeezed in this group. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. Interesting. Okay. I was mixing up some kind of mini stacks with that game earlier today. Maybe I need to reset my expectations here for how little love CD is getting number one. The CD stuff I think is really interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so here's something we haven't talked about yet today. There's not a lot to like in the afternoon games, right? So in the afternoon, the 4 games we have, we got Giants, Cardinals, 49ers, Rams. We got Commanders, Broncos, Jets, Cowboys, right? So if we're just looking at those guys in particular, our top leverage is going to be some of these Denver wide receivers, right? But CeeDee Lamb's right up there too. If this ownership holds for CeeDee Lamb, I think he's an amazing late swap candidate today. An amazing late swap candidate today. So it's like him and Saquon together. Like those are the guys that if things go really wrong in the beginning of today, I'm going to try and get to one of Saquon or CeeDee Lamb. And if you're asking yourself, Joe, those guys are expensive. How am I going to make that happen? Well, there's a chance that you have CMC in the flex, right? So that's just another argument in favor of playing CMC in the flex because it gives you so much flexibility on what you can do. If things aren't going right, you can pivot to Saquon. You can pivot to CeeDee Lamb. It's really the only guy later on that is going to take a ton of salary that's very owned. You could probably put Debo, I guess, into that, but you're going to have multiple players to make that work because he's just 5,600, right? It's not like we're going to have a ton of ownership on Dallas D at 4K and you can move down to like Arizona D or something like that, right? So it's just such an easy pivot off of CMC to CeeDee Lamb or Saquon Barkley in the afternoon. Outside of that, most of the chalk is going to be in the morning, guys. So that's the one late swap I'm kind of trying to set myself up for. Lamb under 5% owned, I would not be shocked. Not in small field stuff, I would not be shocked. He's expensive, right? He's expensive. 7,700 for CD. He had just 4 targets last week. People like are so quick to jump off of those trains. I wouldn't be shocked. But looks like Amon-Ra leading the way on this poll. Okay, I could get behind that. At the top, though, we got no Justin Jefferson, no Tyreek Hill. Is it Jamar Chase at the top from a ceiling perspective here? He's just dominated this Ravens team if we want to care about matchups, right? So I would imagine this is like a decent, a couple bounce back spots here. We got Joe Burrow trying to bounce back a little bit. We got Josh Allen trying to bounce back. So then it becomes Jamar Chase versus Stephon Diggs. And the ownership and the ceiling for these Cincy guys is something that I haven't been able to shake this morning. So I do have a ton of interest in stacking up this game. And I think that Chase, we've already seen him creep up to like 20% or so. T. Higgins, after not getting a catch, but getting a ton of air yards. Sub 10% for T. No one wanted to play Joe Burrow after what he did last week. Sub 10% for him. I kind of like it. And the Baltimore stuff on the other side is a little bit tougher to figure out, I think. Depending on what you think about Zay Flowers as the chalk on the other side of this game, I think there's multiple directions you can go. Mark Andrews is going to be completely unowned, sub 5% probably. So we'll talk about that game when we get to stacks, but I think the Jamar Chase stuff definitely needs to be grabbing your attention. Devontae Adams, he's really just underpriced, right? So as I was going through the prices, it's weird to see him below some of these other guys. Ton of volume here. I think there's definitely an argument that this is one of the best games on the entire slate, this Raiders game, which is not surprising. You'll see a lot of Devontae Adams on the other side of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, those type of things. But with no Jacoby Myers, I like it. 7,600. Ton of volume here. I actually like the Hunter Renfrow stuff that Noel mentioned earlier in the chat. If you want to go a little bit different on the other side of this game, it's really difficult to build lineups when you're starting with Allen, Diggs, and Devontae. You have to find some unique ways to save salary, and that might be one of the ones. I think that's interesting. Calvin Ridley, that game in general is just such a nice game to attack. So if you're going to be spending salary, I think Ridley is kind of the guy that, again, just feels so underpriced. It's the only game on the entire slate with a total that's over 50. So this is supposed to be a quote-unquote grosser slate, just with a little bit less scoring. But Calvin Ridley feels really, really strong here at 7,200. He's popping into a ton of optimals. Noel fan, if you buy a super chat for Joe, I guarantee your win percentage increases by 38%. It's science. 38.7%. That sounds like a number that is so specific, it might be true. Thanks, Noel. All right, let's move on. This Amon-Ra number is interesting for me, you guys, though. Too sharp. Top non-elite wide receiver play. We got Deebo Samuel. We got Puka. Calvin Ridley's in here. Josh Reynolds, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, or other. This is where the money is won and lost, right? These non-elite wide receiver plays, we're taking price into consideration here. It is a sub-only vote. Where are we at on these guys for week 2? What are you guys' thoughts? I need some help making my way through these guys right now. Puka all the way up to 4,900 after last week. 15 targets will do that for your price. While you guys are voting, a couple other things we can go through. We always like to talk about D-line versus O-line matchups because that's the thing that affects efficiency the most, which we know really affects quarterbacks in particular, but also the offenses as a whole. So as good as Matthew Stafford looked last week with Puka and company, really big mismatch for the 49ers D-line against this Rams O-line today. So keeping that in mind, are we going to get a little bit too excited about this Rams team when they might be in for a little bit more difficult situations this week? It's possible. It's possible. We talked a little bit about this Jets offensive line last week as well. Really tough draw against this Cowboys D-line today. Cowboys defense is very expensive, but something to keep in mind. We talked a little bit about the Pollard and CeeDee Lamb stuff. If the Jets really struggle to move the ball offensively, maybe the Cowboys and Jets just make this one a little bit more gross and a defensive battle. I could see that happening. I guess we'll just continue to put my Cardinals on this list too, because basically any D line that faces my Cardinals is going to be in a pretty good spot. So I think Giants D is pretty interesting. On the other side of things, we talked about this with Reeves. Anytime Jared Goff gets time. Say that 10 times fast. Anytime Jared Goff gets time. His efficiency goes through the roof, right? And the Seahawks D line cannot pressure, or they refuse to pressure, right? So bottom 3 pressure rate. I think there's going to be a ton of time for the Lions O-line and Jared Goff and company to get there. So I like that from a perspective of just that game overall, the Seattle and Detroit game. Probably still my favorite game stack if we can figure out how to attack it. Ton of pace in that game. Put it right in that same bucket as KC and Jacksonville probably. Deebo Samuel, second in the votes right now. Calvin Ridley leading the way. I figured he might. I almost left Calvin Ridley off of this poll as well. He was such a weird price point for not putting him in the elite tier, but still putting him in like the drastically underpriced tier. I agree with you guys. I think Calvin Ridley might be my favorite price considered wide receiver play. And then I think you can put the alphas behind him, right? You put like Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, and probably Devontae Adams there as well, even though you guys didn't seem very interested in Devontae Adams versus Amon-Ra. What about Pittman today? I think Pittman is okay. I haven't really found a Richardson lineup that I like with Pittman, though, is what I've struggled with. Rams play zone. Deebo eats against zone. Deebo just feels way too cheap to me. So I might be in on that on this poll, guys. One of those guys that, like, if he breaks a really big one early in the slate, would anyone be surprised? And then we're sitting there just like, this price was staring us in the face all week. And then we got Deebo Samuel at, what is his ownership right now looking at? It keeps moving. Deebo looks like he's going to be, in small field. I wouldn't be shocked if he got to like 25%. So you're eating some chalk there. So that's probably one of the ones I'm still considering moving off of in the afternoon if things aren't going well. Him and CMC. So if you play Deebo and CMC together, you give yourself a lot of room there. So let's actually look at that. So McCaffrey and Debo, 35.5, and Saquon and Lamb. So you're about 1,000 different in price, so it's not a clean 2v2 or anything like that. But definitely kind of interesting to think through. We already talked about Calvin Ridley. In terms of some of these other wide receivers, the fact that Puka only has 1 vote is kind of interesting. Guy had 15 targets last week. It's hard to like completely ignore that. But again, the chat just keeps surprising me today. There's too much like sharp DFS game theory in this chat because no one wants to go back to someone that had a good week the week before. No one wants to play this running back who might be heavily owned in a bad matchup. What is going on? What is going on? A lot of others here. What else we got in the chat? Romeo Dobbs. Okay. Keenan Allen day. Keenan Allen got 7 votes. That's interesting. Big Mike in the chat. Some Big Mike love. Okay. I could get behind that. I get that Puka is banged up. That's fair. That's fair. Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is the top non-elite wide receiver play today. I think Gabe's interesting, but I don't know if I put him in that category. Oh, man. People are scared with the injury. Okay. Fair enough. There's a lot of people in the chat that are letting me know that I'm wrong, which that means you're probably right. Okay. Let's close this one out and keep moving. We got to build some lineups too, eventually, right? We got to get there. So we got to keep plugging along. Top tight end play, price considered, sub-only vote. Travis Kelce is back. We got Chig. We got Dalton Kincaid. We got Luke Musgrave. We got Sam Laporta or other. Where are we at the tight end position this week, fam? The Chiefs did not look great last week, right? It's nice to have Kelce back. Is there a Chiefs wide receiver that goes nuclear today? Who not named Kelce do we want to go after on the Chiefs side of the ball? Because there is like no ownership here. 0. This is wild. I haven't seen anything like this in a really long time. So Kelce's projecting for like 15 to 20%. And then there's not another guy on this offense that's projecting for higher than 3. This is wild. Chiefs, too many mouths to feed. That's fair. That's fair. So maybe the answer is Gis, Kelce, and Mahomes, and hopefully you get access to one of these other guys indirectly. But man, this ownership stuff is wild for these guys. I guess maybe they're all like a little bit overpriced too. Like none of these guys are values. Sky Moore, MVS, Kadarius Toney, they're all like 4,500. MVS week coming, Kyle says. Mahomes naked, maybe. Yeah, Mahomes and Kelce together, not leaving you a ton of salary. It's just like the really popular thing here is going to be probably Mahomes, Kelce, bring it back with like some combination of Calvin Ridley and maybe even Zay Jones. Like Zay Jones versus these KC guys. It's just really hard to justify any of those KC wide receivers over Zay Jones from a projection standpoint, even though they're kind of around the same price. It's Mahomes' birthday today. Birthday narrative. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about Kelce today. 7,600 does a lot to your roster. I don't play Kelce probably as much as I should, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I guess prefer to go cheaper at this position in general. So Musgrave at 3,200 is probably the guy that I like the most. Even though this game is a little bit interesting, it's kind of like a volume thing for Musgrave at 3,200. The talent coming in, all of those things. I think that's probably the direction I would go. Okonkwo and Kincaid, I kind of look at them as like really similar plays today. So I wouldn't kill you for playing either of those guys. I think Kincaid adding to your Josh Allen stacks is is a direction that would make a ton of sense. There's really not. It would be tough. It would be tough to build like a Diggs, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams without trying to find someone on the super cheap side. It's nice to add someone from that game with like Kincaid. So we'll see if we get there when we're building teams here. Sonny likes Andrews today. Andrews is the one that I think most people are going to be scared off of. Yeah, that price. Do I still have the live sweat with Pete? Jamie, I assume you're talking through Tilt Space. We're not planning on doing Tilt Space this year, unfortunately. I'll let you guys know if that changes. Pete's got a kid now. There's a lot of stuff. Pete does like 1 million shows every week. So, yeah, we decided to axe Tilt Space for now. We'll see. All right, let's close this one out. This is my favorite poll of the entire week. Favorite game stack. And this is what we're going to use to actually build teams too. So whoever wins this poll will be the first lineup that we build. We got KC at Jacksonville, Seattle at Detroit, Las Vegas at Buffalo, Baltimore at Cincy, Chargers at Titans, San Francisco at LA Rams. Exclamation point vote, space the number in order to place your vote. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel or your vote will not count. Where we at? Where we at? I'm going to put real American dollars behind this team. We're going to build 3 teams today, per usual. I like the idea of building 3 live. We got some KC Jacksonville love in here. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So every time we do this poll, I will remove the team that we build a lineup for, and then we'll restart this poll before we build another one. How's that sound? Does that work for you guys? Sweet. I think Herbert has a big day versus Tennessee secondary with no Eckler. Yeah, well, talk about a pass funnel, right? Everyone wants to talk about Kelly being in such a terrible position. That's one thing that's nice. We got a nice pass funnel situation, right? Seattle, Detroit leading the way on this one now. Okay. I could get behind that. Built a couple of those teams today. We could do this. We could show off the Game Hub for a second. So this is pretty cool. One of the free tools over at Fantasy Life. Get to see that Detroit obviously is in a really good spot here from a matchup perspective against Seattle. Such a weird game last week in general. Montgomery, Gibbs. Lots to like on the Detroit side of the ball. I'm with you guys. Is that going to be the first lineup we build? We got to 50 votes. I think that's a good jump off spot. So let's do it. So we'll close this out. And then the decision becomes this right here. What quarterback? I'm going to let you guys decide. Quarterback choice, Geno or Goff? Who do we want? Geno Smith, Jared Goff in this lineup. What are we feeling? What are we feeling here? I need you guys to vote in the chat, and then we will start to build this team out. What are we feeling? It says Goff all day. Goff at home is elite. A lot of Goff love so far. Fair enough. Fair enough. This seems overwhelmingly Goff. So I think even though we only got 30 votes so far, I think we can move on to the build. Let's do it. Before we get here though, guys, if you have not checked out PrizePicks yet, you should definitely do that. If you use code HOLKA, you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100. We'll talk through some of my favorite PrizePicks later on in the show, but if you want them now, make sure you check out the newsletter, all my favorite PrizePicks. The link to them went out this morning to that. So first link in the description. We'll get you over to the Touchdown Press newsletter. We'll get you over to my favorite PrizePicks. So if you want to take advantage of that free $100, make sure you guys check out that. Cool. Let's build this team. Goff, Jared Goff. Let's get him in there. What do we want to do with Pear and Jared Goff? I think judging by we're gonna want Amon-Ra in here. Fair enough. That's the easy part. Who else do we want to pair? Who else do we want to pair Jared Goff with here? Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, someone said. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, so if we're just looking at this game in particular on the Detroit side of the ball, where's the ownership, right? The ownership is going to be Amon-Ra, Montgomery, and then probably Josh Reynolds, right? So I think if we're going to do this stack, I'm fine with Amon-Ra, but what do you guys think of Gibbs and Laporta? Is this too much for Jared Goff at home? I don't know if it is. I got to scroll down so you guys can actually see. Sorry about that. Isn't Laporta going to be over-owned? I don't think so. I'd be shocked if he's double digits. Someone says too much. We could adjust this as we go, but I don't mind this side of it. Do we have a favorite piece on the Seattle side of the ball? Don't forget your roots. Knock out the tight end. That is something we definitely like to do here. I'm with you. Kenneth Walker is probably going to be the highest owned piece on the other side, but he's not going to be super popular. He's going to be maybe 10%. And then we could go DK or Lockett on the other side if we wanted to. We got 3 DKs in the chat so far. 4 DKs in the chat. Lockett gets all the Geno escape passes. That's when he's pressured. Is that true? I like that. Lockett's a little bit cheaper, 900 cheaper. What's up, Nate? How's it going, Nate? We got some DK love in here, though. You love to see it. JSN tied for top targets last week. That's true. That's true. He's at 4,500. He's just not projecting very well either. I don't mind the Lockett call, though. If we're just looking straight ceiling, it's pretty similar to Metcalf in this spot. Much better cheap options than Gibbs. This is a tournament team, my man. We're shooting for the fences. Less people play Lockett because he was hurt last week. That's fair. I think both of those guys are going to be pretty low owned, like sub 6, sub 5, roughly. DK matchup seems good for him. I think these guys are both kind of interesting. Let's go with Lockett for now because he's 6,100. If we can move up to DK in a smart way later, I think we can do that. In terms of defenses, I like to have like some sort of placeholder in here. So we could do Titans at 2,400 since we're probably not going to have much of this Chargers game in here. We could do Cardinals. Raiders at the very low end if we wanted to. What do you guys think Cardinals versus Titans? Someone said Atlanta. Titans or Cards? I like the idea of Cards just because we get a little bit of the late night defense hammer, which is kind of nice. But let's just put Cardinals in there for now as a placeholder. So we got 5,700 remaining the rest of the way. Okay. Fair enough. Jets versus Dak. Jets are just so expensive. So if we get Goff, Gibbs, what's the one-off piece that we really want to... Like, if we had room for one really expensive guy, who do you guys want to get in here? I think we do have room for it. At least one of the expensive guys here. Someone said Diggs. We got some CMC love in here. We could get Jamar Chase in there if we wanted to. Kelsey. Probably not going Kelsey. Someone says CeeDee Lamb. CMC. CMC is the one that we might not be able to afford. I think we can get in like a one-off Jamar Chase if we wanted to. I guess it basically comes down to, do we want to play Joshua Kelly on this team? Since we didn't go against that, let's put Kelly in there for now. I know you guys all hate Kelly today because of his matchup, but he's 5K and he's going to get a ton of volume. Someone said they like the Chase idea. Okay. So we got 6K the rest of the way. What does that leave us with if we go to Chase in the flex or in wide receiver? We got 4,200. So it's going to be one of these kind of more thin wide receiver options at this point, right? Renfro's in here. We got no Buffalo on this team, though. We could do like a Diggs Renfro mini, potentially. Does that fit? What do you guys think of this? Does this give any, what does this give us in the afternoon? Anything? Nothing but Cardinals D in the afternoon, which I don't love, but this is kind of interesting. So Goff, Gibbs, St. Brown, Laporta, bringing it back with Lockett. And then we got Joshua Kelly one-off. We got Renfro Diggs mini. The Tony Ridley mini. Ooh. Does that fit? Do we like Diggs Renfro or Tony Ridley? Diggs Renfro or Tony Ridley? That's pretty hot. Zach Moss over Kelly. Everyone just hates Kelly today. Yeah, I can't get behind the Zach Moss over Kelly. I don't think it's close. Tony Ridley. Tony is as fragile as glass. Chases have one-off is good in tournaments. Yeah, I agree. I still think that Diggs is okay, too, as a one-off. Tennessee is a good run defense. Everyone seems to be telling me that. Everyone seems to be telling me that. It's like one of the only defense things we don't care that much about. A lot of people like the Ridley Tony mix in here. Okay, fair enough. Don't hate Kelly, hate him versus Tennessee run D. Okay. Are you guys going to force me to take Kelly out of this build? I just don't know. Well, we're going to build more teams here. I promise we won't play Kelly on all of them. All right, I think we go with our first instinct here. The Diggs Renfro. Let's move on from this one. Remove that game. Close this poll out. We'll remove Seattle, Detroit from the poll. Restart it. Favorite game stack remaining. What's the next lineup that you guys want to build today? What are we feeling? We got KC at Jacksonville on the board still. We got Las Vegas, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincy, LA Chargers, Tennessee. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff here. Take Amon-Ra out. Never that. We love the Sun God. What are we thinking here, friends? We got one vote so far. You guys alive? 650 people in here. We got one vote. Did the polls break? There we go. We got some KC Jacksonville love now. Okay. Who's it gonna be? Real American dollars here. Who we going with? What are we feeling? A lot of KC Jacksonville here. A lot of KC Jacksonville here. Anyone concerned with the weather in Jacksonville? It's week 2 and we're already talking about. All right, let's see what we got here. I think it's just like a little bit of rain, right? I don't see anything about wind really. Not worried about any weather stuff today, but glad we checked it. KC Jacksonville leading the way here. Okay, that's what we're doing. Closing this poll out. Then which quarterback do we want here? All right, we got Mahomes, T-Law. All right. Who we want to build with here? Mahomes or T-Law at quarterback? We'll get this train moving. Mikey boy, you got to vote. You can't just put T-Law in the chat. Late Night Darren's in here. What's up, guys? Only win matters. Mostly agree. Yep. Mahomes or T-Law? This is the game that we have to get right today, I think. I have a direction I want to go with this one, so I'll be curious to see if you guys agree with me. 26 votes. We're going to try and let it get to at least 50 before we call it here. Been playing a lot of Pacheco, but don't feel great about it. Pacheco. I can honestly say I haven't built one team with Pacheco yet. He's going to be very low owned, though, if that's what you're going for. $30 votes. I'm going to hold you guys hostage. If one person votes in here that is on their computer, not watching this on their TV, if each of you guys do that, I think we get to 50 pretty quickly. It's so close, guys. That's why we need your help. We're at 48% to 51%. Mahomes versus T-Law. This is a big decision here. We are very split right now. Slam, just want to give you props for this ebook. Great work, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I spent a lot of time on that, so hopefully you guys check it out. The goal was to make it as valuable as possible for free. I figure the more people that read that, the more people find enough value that want to hang out with us on Sunday mornings and have like real high-level DFS conversations, right? That was the idea, at least. Watch on TV, vote by phone is the move. That sounds like definitely the move. 44 votes. Mahomes is, wow, 1 ahead. This is wild. I got to let this play out. What are we thinking here? 50-50, 25-25. I don't know if that's ever happened before. Wow. Johnny in the chat. I literally stopped feeding my newborn to give it a like. What a guy. What a guy. Guys, we got to get here. Someone's got to break the tie here. We're going to let it go to 60. We're so close. 60, Mahomes. All right, 54%. This one was close, though. This one was close. Mahomes is it. All right, so if we go Mahomes, I think we can feel pretty good about playing Kelsey, right? Let me run this past you guys. This is what I would like to do with this one. Is it too chalky? We go Mahomes, Kelsey, bring it back with Ridley and Zay Jones. What do you guys think? How do we feel about that starting point for this roster? Is that the way I want it to go? Yes, because this is actually the stack that I was hoping to build. I like this stack a lot. This is one of the ones that I highlighted in the newsletter this week. Mahomes, Ridley, Jones, and Kelsey. Someone said McKinnon. McKinnon. I'm kind of a sucker for McKinnon, if I'm being completely honest. I just have all of the, like, especially with Mahomes stacks. God, he just doesn't project that well. 4,600 for McKinnon. It's just so rough. Like, I'm open to circling back to it. What do we want our defense placeholder to be for this one, though, friends? What do we want the defense placeholder to be? I like to have a placeholder defense in there. We did, I think, Cardinals on the last one. Is that right? Forget. Someone said Raiders. Cards late game. Falcons. Let's get a defense in there that isn't super highly owned and is kind of cheap. Wouldn't that be nice? We could do... Tempted by a Lions defense against Seattle if we're not going to have a lot of this game. So, like, think about this. Like, for this game to be the game that you need, which games do you need to fail? You probably need Seattle and Detroit to fail, right? So I don't mind the idea of Detroit D against Seattle, especially with how much pressure Seattle was giving up. What do you guys think about that? Lions? I like the leverage of Lions. Let's do that. All right, so we got Lions D in there. All right. What are we prioritizing at the high end on this? We already have, well, 4,800. We got to find something of value, right? At running back. I'd imagine we have to play. We could probably do like an AJ Dillon here. So you guys don't yell at me about Joshua Kelly and his matchup. I think we could do that. If we wanted to, since the other team we stacked up Detroit and Seattle, we could go David Montgomery here. What do you guys think about like a Dillon Montgomery combo? Is that too much chalk? God, it's just so expensive. Hate Dillon. Monty. Yeah, I was thinking that. Dillon is not a good football player. He's going to get volume, though, guys. I don't think we can fit Pacheco here. I'm nervous this is too chalky. Do we get weird with McKinnon? I always like to have at least like one other piece with Mahomes because you just get such low ownership. It feels bad to just completely avoid it. Pacheco I don't think fits because he's too expensive. But like McKinnon meaningfully changes our lineup, I think. What do we think about this? And then if we can find something on the cheaper side that we like, I don't hate it. What do we think about this? McKinnon will catch some passes. Exactly. Someone said Rice. I don't really want to mess around too much with the wide receivers, though. A lot of Rice people in the chat, though. Moss has more volume. I'm just thinking through like what the rest of this roster could look like, right? So what type of late swap eligibility do we want here is the thought. If we wanted we haven't made a Debo team yet, right? What does that get us if we put Debo in the flex? Let's just put someone in here for a second. Debo. 3,100 at wide receiver. Does that get us anyone we want? 3,100 at wide receiver. Probably don't need anyone else on KC. Doesn't get us Josh Reynolds. We're 300 away from Jaden Reed at 3,400. What do you guys think about a Tank Dell? Tank is like the guy that I'm just like kind of interested in this Houston offense right now. He's 3,200, so we would have to change our defense. But I think that's kind of interesting. Dell and different D. That's kind of what I was thinking. Let's get Dell in there. And what would we want to adjust here? So if you guys are yelling at me about Dylan, we would have 5,800 if we wanted to go with Montgomery here instead of Dylan. Do we like Montgomery over Dylan? Do we like Kenneth Walker in that spot? Probably not against Lions D. So I guess that is the question. Do we like the idea of just moving down from Dylan to Montgomery? Everyone loves the tank play. Okay, sweet. I like this build quite a bit so far. Gives us a Debo late swap eligibility. Monty. I think that's the play. The correlation benefit, we got Monty and Lions D. I think this actually turned out pretty solid. So we got KC, McKinnon, we got Mahomes, McKinnon, Kelsey, bring back with Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley. So we're just game stacking that up. We got Montgomery, Lions D. We got Dell one off at 3,200, and we got Debo one off at 5,600 in the flex. I like it. Cool. Let's go back, and then we'll figure out what our final roster is going to look like. Let's remove KC. Favorite game stack. Or what else do we want to build here? What's a fun build we can have here? Larger field build. I like it. I like that. I like that Mahomes team. That's pretty solid. See you, Joe. Appreciate you stopping by, my man. I have one 4 p.m. game. It's really difficult to build with the 4 p.m.s in mind today, so not as focused on late swap as always. What format am I playing these lineups? I'm throwing them in the Millie Maker, but I think we're building for like a, maybe not a crazy large field, but probably not super small field either, if that makes sense. I can't stomach the fact of building a lineup with you guys live and not playing in the Millie Maker, so you can just assume that any lineup we build here, I'm just going to throw it in there. It's all for fun. Ravens-Bengals game should be high scoring. We haven't done anything with Cincy yet today, and that kind of bothers me somehow. But we'll see if we get there. You guys are making the choice. You guys are driving the bus here. For the most part. Colts Texans silly for the Millie. We got some Buffalo love in here. This is going to be a close one, I think, between Raiders, Bills, and Ravens, Bengals, I think, for you guys. But we'll see. We still got 500 people here hanging out on a Sunday morning. Appreciate you guys. It's always a fun time. Always a fun time. Walker or Debo in the flex? I have a lot of Debo in the flex currently, Aaron. I'm a big fan of Debo today. That's why he's on the thumbnail. So far, we got Baltimore and Cincy leading the way here by a decent amount, but only 23 votes. So let's at least get it up to like 30, 35, and then we'll build our last team here. Love the channel. Appreciate you, Sonny. Did I show you guys the newest addition to the studio? Last week, I think I did. This is the Joe Burrow. This is my first quarterback helmet that I've ever bought. So I'm pretty pumped about this. We had to give it a prime spot of the studio. Real forward facing. All right. So we have, on that note, Baltimore and Cincy leading the way for this poll. Let's close it. And then let's figure out what we want to do with quarterback here. Burrow or Lamar. All right. Who do we want to build with? Burrow stack or Lamar stack? How we feeling? How we feeling? see where we're at here. Do I still have my dog? You better believe it, Mikey boy. Actually, one of the sadder things, she actually got pneumonia over the summer. And, well, she had kennel cough. It transitioned into pneumonia, which is pretty popular for Great Danes, or pretty common for Great Danes, I should say. She basically got over it and then really turned like on a dime and got it again, but much worse. So yeah, she was in the hospital for like 4 days, believe it or not. It was really affecting her breathing, and she had like tubes in her nose. It was like the saddest thing I've ever seen for like a 2-year-old dog. So yeah, they were kind of like telling us to expect the worst at one point. So that was really rough. So I would say that like thankfully she made it, and everything is good now. She's healthy, and we love her very much, obviously. But it made me realize that sometimes like you'll hear about someone saying like, oh yeah, my dog's sick. Like it actually like crushed me, right? So like now anytime someone mentions that like they're going through something like that, family member, dog, whatever it is, like just throw like just give them a lot of compassion, right? Because it's really big deal. So I'm gonna try and make a better effort of like checking in with people that like I'll see on Instagram or something that whatever their dog's sick or something happened, just like check in on them, man. These people like definitely can use, like I had a couple people reach out to me just to like see how things were going with Madden, and I really appreciated it. So I want to try and do a better job of paying that forward as well. But she's good, thankfully. Maybe I'll go grab her at the end of the show. Give you guys your first Madden sneak peek. All right, let's build a Joe Burrow lineup here. Let's do it. Let's do it. Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase. Now what? What do we want? What do we want? I have a couple ideas for this one too, but I'm curious what you guys think. I'm really curious what you guys think. Lots of choices. Lots of choices for sure. Is there a piece of the other side of this game that we want in Baltimore, or do we want to go really heavy Cincy? I think is the question here, right? If we go with Andrews, it really limits what we can do with the rest of this team. So I'm not set on that in particular just yet. But I'm open to suggestions. We got Zay at 5K if we wanted to go there. Squeaky wheel for someone like OBJ. The running backs are a complete disaster. We got some flowers here. Ooh, a lot of flowers in the chat. Okay. We actually have a decent amount of flowers. Okay, so I think that's pretty much a consensus, as much as we'll get in the chat. So let's go flowers in here. That'll help us with our roster a little bit for sure. And then now we're trying to figure out to T or not to T, or do we try and get in like a mix-in type of play? What do we want to do here? What do we want to do here? What do you guys think? What's our priority? Do we get T in there? I think is my next question. Got a lot of Boyd love. Why so much Boyd love? A lot of Boyd love. Does make a lot work. I'm just looking at this, and Mixon's kind of like a weird ownership, so he's not super low and he's not high enough to be like someone I wouldn't want to go after. T. Higgins still looking like sub 10%. Boyd barely sub 5, so pretty similar on ownership. The ceiling for T is just so much higher, right? I'm going to do an executive decision here and say we're going with T. So from a defense perspective, I think we have a Cardinals team. Pretty sure we have a Lions team. I want to get in like a Raiders. I'm trying to think of like other high. We could do Titans as well. Pass funnel. Let's do Titans, kind of a middle of the road D. Boyd kills the Ravens. Andrews kills the Bengals. Don't overthink it. Joe and Chase move on. Yeah, I think this is solid for now. So at tight end, one guy we don't have any of yet is Luke Musgrave. Does that one make anyone uncomfortable? Seems like one of the best plays of the week. We have none. 3,200 does a lot for our roster. Does a lot for our roster. So I'm gonna. And what else is our priority here? Every tight end makes me uncomfortable. That's fair. That's fair. You got me there. So 2 running backs and a flex. This is where it gets a little bit dicey, right? Little bit dicey. It's kind of interesting. I'm getting some interesting players on this build that keep popping up. Who's like a more expensive guy we want to prioritize? I think we have room in the flex if we get a little bit more. Well, it depends on if we want to play like a Josh Reynolds or not. Josh Jacobs, CMC flex. We don't have a CMC in the flex yet. I wouldn't mind trying to make that work. Let's see if we can. Let's just do this. Now we need really cheap. So this one we wouldn't have been able to play. No, this works. Maybe we don't. Maybe we probably have to put him in the running back slot, honestly, because we're gonna need a cheaper. We're gonna need a cheaper wide receiver, I think, in here as well. So we got Musgrave already, so we're probably not playing Dylan. Everyone says that they hate Kelly. Rashad White, 5,500. We don't have any of him. I think he's interesting. Boyd instead of Higgins. We could do that. We don't have room for Paul or Dallas. James Cook leverage against Allen Diggs stacks. The fact that we don't even have consensus on Cook versus Zach Moss is not great. Cook's still gonna be like 10% though, so like there's not a ton of leverage there, and he's 6,100. So I don't know if that fits with this build. I think Kelly for this lineup's almost necessary. Because that gets us to 4,300, which gets us to some of these other wide receivers we would probably want, right? So at 4,300, we could roll the dice with another Renfro team. We could roll the dice with a Sky Moore. We could just add Tyler Boyd to this team, which I don't hate. Let's go Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. That's probably not great for large field, though. There's some options here. What do we think? What would make sense with this build, right? Is there anything on... We can't get really anywhere near the LA. Well, depends on what we did at defense. Can we get to Puka here if we go all the way down at defense? We cannot. Not even close. Okay. Fair enough. I'm trying to see if we have a decent mini here. We could just add in Jaden Reed, 3,400. It's kind of like a weird range. Take Higgins out, someone says. Executive decision that T. Higgins is staying. A lot of Moss people in the chat. Why is everyone obsessed with Moss? $4,700 for Moss is going to be like 0% owned. I don't think Connor will fit with this one. I don't necessarily want to go double tight end. I need you guys' help. I feel like there's a lot of stuff flying around the chat that doesn't even fit in with this lineup. Is that a note that we need to move something around, that we can't make this decision? 4,300. Musgrave to Chig and then play Jade and Reed. That's interesting. How do we feel about Chig with Titans D? I guess we could upgrade Titans D at that point. That would get us to Lions D for some leverage there. I don't hate it. If we didn't go to Jaden Reed, I like the fact that we got a mini here with Okonkwo and Kelly, though. That's kind of nice. I don't mind that. Someone said Lions D. $3,600. We could add to our stack with Boyd and then move down to like a Cardinals D at 2,600. What do we think about that? Something like this gives us an out later in the slate. We still have McCaffrey here. What do we think about this? Too much Cincy. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. This last player in the flex, I think it might just be Jaden Reed at 34. And then Lions D. I think this is probably what I would go with. Everyone seems to like Boyd though. And Tank Dell. Everyone loves Tank Dell as well. We got one Tank Dell team. I think this works for now. Someone says not working. This doesn't work. Kelly 3 points this week. No one likes the Kelly stuff. If we were to move off of Kelly on this team and move back into Dylan, could do it if we wanted to go to Raiders D, essentially. So Dylan, Raiders D versus Kelly and Lions D, essentially. I like the leverage with Kelly and Lions D, personally. I think that's what we're going with for now. If you disagree, feel free to change a couple of these things. I won't be offended. We're locking it in. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Oh, I should go get Madden quick. Hang on. I'll be right back. Hold my beer. Oh, people want to see you. Oh, there she is. There's a good looking pup right there. Madden, what's up here? She's a lap dog. She's a lap dog. Why don't you look over there? Shish. Yeah. There we go. There we go. This is what we needed. I might just sit here and watch the games from right here all day. Madden, you're famous. Everyone's glad that you're okay. Everyone's glad that you're okay. All right. Oh, she's really heavy. There we go. I try and make her laptop. She doesn't like it. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Everyone have a great week, too. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Check out the Touchdown Press newsletter. Make sure you go check out PrizePicks, all that good stuff. Let's win $1 million this week. All the things. All right, guys. Appreciate you.